Welcome to a day in the Word. Today's reading is Esther chapter 5 through Esther chapter 6. Esther chapter 5. On the third day, Esther put on her special robes. Then she stood in the inside area of the king's palace, in front of the king's hall. The king was sitting on his throne in the hall, facing the place where people enter the throne room. When the king saw Queen Esther standing in the court, he was very pleased. He held out to her the gold scepter that was in his hand. So Esther went in to the room and went near the king. Then she touched the end of the king's gold scepter. Then the king asked, "What is bothering you, Queen Esther? What do you want to ask me? I will give you anything you ask for, even half my kingdom." Esther said, "I have prepared a party for you and Haman. Will you and Haman please come to the party today?" Then the king said, "Bring Haman quickly so that we may do what Esther asks." So the king and Haman went to the party Esther had prepared for them. While they were drinking wine, the king asked her again, "Now, Esther, what do you want to ask for?" "Ask for anything, I will give it to you." "So what is it you want?" "I will give you anything you want, up to half my kingdom." Esther answered, "This is what I want to ask for. If the king is pleased with me and thinks it good to give me what I ask for, let the king and Haman come tomorrow. I will prepare another party for them. Then I will tell what I really want." Haman left the king's palace that day very happy and in a good mood. But when he saw Mordecai at the king's gate, he became very angry. Haman was very mad at him because Mordecai didn't show any respect when Haman walked by. Mordecai was not afraid of Haman, and this made Haman mad. But Haman controlled his anger and went home. Then Haman called together his friends and his wife, Zeresh. Haman started bragging about how rich he was. He was bragging to his friends about his many sons and about all the ways the king had honored him. And he was bragging about how the king had promoted him higher than all the other leaders. "And that's not all," Haman added. "I'm the only one Queen Esther invited to be with the king at the party she gave. And the queen also has invited me to be with the king again tomorrow. But all this means nothing to me. I cannot be happy as long as I see that Jew Mordecai sitting at the king's gate." Then Haman's wife Zeresh and all his friends had a suggestion. They said, "Tell someone to build a post to hang him on. Make it 75 feet tall. In the morning, ask the king to hang Mordecai on it. Then go to the party with the king, and you can be happy." Haman liked this suggestion, so he ordered someone to build the hanging post. Esther chapter 6. That same night, the king could not sleep, so he told a servant to bring the history book and read it to him. The book of history of the king's list everything that happens during the king's rule. The servant read the book to the king. He read about the evil plan to kill King Xerxes. That was when Mordecai had learned about Bigthana and Teresh. These two men were the king's officers who guarded the doorway. They had planned to kill the king, but Mordecai learned about the plan and told someone about it. Then the king asked, "What honor and good things have been given to Mordecai for this?" The servants answered the king, "Nothing has been done for Mordecai." Haman had just entered the outer area of the king's palace. He had come to ask the king to hang Mordecai on the hanging post Haman had commanded to be built. The king said, "Who just came into the courtyard?" The king's servant said, "Haman is standing in the courtyard." So the king said, "Bring him in." When Haman came in, the king asked him a question. He said, "Haman, what should be done for a man the king wants to honor?" Haman thought to himself, "Who is there that the king would want to honor more than me? I'm sure that the king is talking about honoring me." So Haman answered the king, "Do this for the man the king loves to honor. Have the servants bring a special robe the king himself has worn, and a horse the king himself has ridden. Have the servants put the king's special mark on the horse's head. Then put one of the king's most important leaders in charge of the robe and the horse, and let the leader put the robe on the man the king wants to honor. Then let him lead him on the horse through the city streets. As he leads him, let him announce, 'This is done for the man the king wants to honor.'" "Go quickly," the king commanded Haman. "Get the robe and the horse, and do just as you have suggested for Mordecai the Jew. He is sitting near the king's gate. Do everything that you suggested." So Haman got the robe and the horse. Then he put the robe on Mordecai and led him on horseback through the city streets. Haman announced ahead of Mordecai, "This is done for the man the king wants to honor." After that, Mordecai went back to the king's gate, but Haman hurried home with his head covered because he was embarrassed and ashamed. Then Haman told his wife, Zeresh, and all his friends everything that had happened to him. His wife and the men who gave him advice said, "If Mordecai is a Jew, you cannot win. You have already started to fall. Surely you will be ruined." While they were still talking to Haman, the king's eunuchs came to Haman's house. They made Haman hurry to the party that Esther had prepared. Thank you for joining A Day in the Word Bible in a Year series. Please subscribe, like, comment, and don't forget to turn on that notification bell. Until next time, Shalom.